to ACI course 14 with Venerable Gyelse. And I'm happy to introduce Venerable Gyelse. She's my Heart Lama. She's a great teacher and I love her teaching. Venerable Gyelse has studied Tibetan Buddhism for over 30 years with many of the great Tibetan masters. She completed a 3-year silent meditation retreat in 2014 at Diamond Mountain. Actually, she built a house there. It's Cottage 3. It's amazing. If you have ever been there, you can maybe one day you can stay there. She completed a retreat and then she stayed at Diamond Mountain for a while. And actually, for the last 20 years or more, Venerable Gyelse was involved in the development and support Diamond Mountain Retreat Center. In this course, we are going to have a few translations to few languages, and we are going to have study groups. You might find the link to study groups. If you want to study with group, do your homeworks, quizzes together, maybe even meditate. We already have English and Russian speaking community to do that. And you can use these QR codes to join the study groups. Also, we invite maybe ACI teacher assistants to lead groups in Italian and Vietnamese or other languages. If you want, please contact me in Telegram or contact ACI and you can organize study groups in your language to study this beautiful course in your native language. So I'm happy to welcome Venerable Gyelse. And this course I really personally got from her in Diamond Mountain already. But I didn't finish it, I didn't do my homeworks. And now I'm gonna listen the second time this beautiful course and learn it from Venerable Gyelse. Please welcome Venerable Gyelse, give your hearts, your flowers to her in the chat. Venerable Gyelse, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kadrin, for that wonderful introduction. And welcome everybody in whatever time zone you're in. I have no idea all the different time zones here, but it's just starting to get light here in the morning. And we almost even had some snow yesterday after being very warm last week, like summertime. So it's crazy weather. So welcome to ACI 14 Lojong. I'm teaching this at a request of one of my students. And so rather than just teach it to one person, we thought, let's teach it to whoever wants to come. And Venerable Kadrin says that it's a difficult course. And I think on the outside, it looks really simple. But to practice it is really difficult because we're really working with trying to change our minds, right? Trying to change our hearts. And we've been doing things for so long in so many different habitual ways that is really hard. First we have to recognize what is keeping us from the world that we want to have. And then we have to start working on our mind. And like Master Shantideva, I find the Lojong classes, there's a beautiful poetry about them, not just in the words, but in the concepts and the ways of thinking. And they kind of make me go, oh, just kind of look at something in a new and fresh way. And I always love the Lojong, just like I love Master Shantideva. And I think they're very, very similar. So there's 10 classes. We're going to meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? There is some conflict with another class, and I'm sorry about that. As ACI grows bigger and bigger, I think that's going to be happening more often, especially as we try to cover all the world, which is in different time zones at what one time in the day, right? Rather than late at night for, especially for the teacher, because it's hard to teach if you're tired, and makes much more sense for those of us in the western part of the United States to do it in the morning. So sometimes it's going to be hard to choose what course you want to take. So these are hard choices, and we are so fortunate to have those kinds of choices, right? So without further ado, I will share my screen. Maybe, let's see, I'm not quite ready yet. Oh, let's see. Because I've forgotten how to do this. It's been so long since I did it. It's only been a few months, but on to other things. Bear with me. I have to remember what the code is. There we go. And there we go.
Yeah, Lama, I'm happy to share if you would like to.
No, I just had to remember. Can you see it? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So ACI 14 Lojong, and we'll talk about what that word means in a few moments, means how to develop a good heart. Right? And it's not just about being a good person because, we just are moved to be a good person. It's really talking about how do we create greater and greater kindness in our heart? Greater and greater, especially for those beings, those people who we have difficulty with, right? Like one of your closest friends or political leaders in your country or, corporations and companies. Like, how can we open our hearts to the beings, the entities that we feel are not acting properly? And how can we realize and understand that they too want happiness and don't want suffering? And how do we open ourselves to that, to have love for every being in every world, in every country, in every universe? So, class 1, we're going to cover the 8 verses of Diamond Lion. And we're going to cover that in 2 classes. So this is just part 1. So lojong, the word lojong, lo means mind, and jong means to make pure, or can mean that. It's an interesting word. It can mean to make pure, like, it's used in Jangchu, which is the word for Buddha in Tibetan. The Jang is the same as the Zhong, and it means purified, meaning a Buddha or a pure being. It can also, though, mean to practice something like something you want to learn, like maybe tennis or pickleball or dancing, right? And so it can also mean to train. So sometimes lo meaning mind and jang or zhong meaning train, sometimes they call it mental training, like exercises we would do to increase our IQ, right? But what we're really getting at here is something very radical. It's a very radical behavior modification therapy. Developing a good heart. We use it at work, with our family, all day long. We have an opportunity to use it, right? So it's this very, very radical behavior modification. It's a major change in how we relate with other people. And as Venerable Kadron said, it's hard. It's harder than Buddhist logic and philosophy. Buddhist logic and philosophy is hard intellectually. Lojong, though, because it's not an intellectual exercise, it's something we have to do from the inside, is much harder. And Geshe gives this example. He was many, many years ago when he was a young man, he was on an airplane. And, you're in an airplane with a whole bunch of other people. And the airplane is starting to act erratic. It's turning this way and turning that way and going up and coming down quickly. And everybody's like, what is going on, right? And the plane, they couldn't get the landing gear down. So they didn't know what was going to happen. And at first, the pilot and the stewards on the plane, they were very calm, and it's like, okay, everybody, this is what we're doing. We're going to circle around and get rid of all of our gasoline. So if we have to make a crash landing, we won't explode, right? There won't be any gas left. So they circled around for I don't know about many hours, but at least a good hour and a half or two. And they still didn't know if they had gotten the landing gear down. And then things started to get even more tense and nervous. And you're on this plane and you're looking, you're talking to your neighbor who you've just probably been fighting over the amount of room on the seat because they're so small. And you know that you may die together. Everyone around us is suffering and dying, right? Just like that. Do you think that they continue to argue over how much room was in the seat? Who had this much of the seat and who had that much of the seat? And he said this incredible amount of love just flowed out from everybody, trying to comfort each other, helping to write notes, giving each other their loved ones' contact information, right? We are going to lose everyone we love and everything that we have ever worked for. And we have to jong this feeling. Stop arguing over who got this and who didn't get that, right? Stop fighting over what's mine and what's yours. We have to jong this feeling of love, to practice or develop the feeling all day long of loving others. Who are those others? They are the people around us, the people we see every day. And everyone's losing all the good things they have. How much time do we waste in struggling to get the things we want for ourselves? And we're going to lose them anyway, right? So there's no point to being selfish. So we have to change our heart. Why not be good for others? Why not be good with each other? Why argue and fight? And you're all old enough to know that it takes a lot of practice. It's really difficult. And it's meant to be something that you do all day long, at home, at work, in the grocery store, on the subway. And it's a major change in how we relate to other people. Right? We are all in the plane going down. So Lojong texts are generally short and pithy, like 1 page long. You know what the pith is? The pith, if you take a stem of a plant, it's what's on the inside. It's the concentrated part on the inside of a stick. That's the pith. So this is the essence, right? And even though we will spend 2 classes on this 1 page text, there's so much in it. You know, there's other pages, there's other texts like the Lamrim Chemo, which is 1,000 pages, or the Vinaya, which is 16,000 pages, or the Perfection of Wisdom, which is around 9,000 pages. But these are like really, really short. The first Chankya Rinpoche, who is the reincarnation of the Chankya Rinpoche now? Habonka Rinpoche, right? But the first, he's the reincarnation of the Chankya Rinpoche. But the first Chankya Rinpoche was Nawang Lobsang Chundan. Say Nawang Lobsang Chundan. And he lived, as you can see, 1642 to 1714. And the reason he has the name Chankya is that he served as the Lama of the Emperor of China. And he refers to Lojong, and especially the Lojong in 8 verses, as advices in developing, that's the Jong, the mind, Sam or Lo. So it could be semjong as well, right? So Geshe likes to translate it as developing the good heart. And what it all boils down to is it means developing the wish for enlightenment. So who's on here that I can call on to read? Janet Chen.
You want the Tibetan?
Yes, please.
Sempa Chenpe Lang Gri Tangpa Dorje Senge Zepe Zhangshub Semjong Gi Dampa Sikki Mar Drakpa.
Beautiful. Can you read the English for us too now?
Diamond Lion from Langri Tangpa region, who was a highly realized bodhisattva, made 8 verses of instruction on how to develop the wish to reach Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Thank you so much. So that gives you all the information here. Diamond Lion, who was from a place called Langri Tangpa, right? He's a highly realized bodhisattva. He wrote these 8 verses of instruction on how to develop the wish to reach Buddhahood for every living being. And of course, you'll need those dates. Well, I didn't give you the dates. Let me give you the dates. He lived 1642 to 1714. I'll give those to you again, right? For your homework. So where do we get the Lojong texts from? The source of most of the Lojong texts that we will study it comes from something called the Gya, or the Gyatsa. And Gya means 100. Sa means root text. So Gyatsa is a kind of book in Tibet where you go get a bunch of Lojongs and you put them in one book. So in English, we call that a compendium. So it's a compendium of texts on developing a good heart, the Lojong Gyatsa. And it was compiled by this great bodhisattva named Muchen Konchok Gyaltsen. And Muchen Konchok Gyaltsen, he lived in the 14th century. That would be in the 1300s. And Muchen is a little county in central Tibet. We don't know his birth dates or his death dates, but he lived somewhere in the 14th century. And he put together this beautiful collection of Lojongs. And that's a statue of him. So what does the text look like? I thought you might want to see what the wood carving of a couple of pages of the text looks like. And so this goes to the ALL translator centers or input centers, and they read it and type it in, and then we get back, the Tibetan that looks like this, right? So it's a very cool process. So before we dive into the 8 verses, here is a syllabus of this whole course. Classes 1 and 2, we're going to study Lojong Sikgema, the Lojong in 8 verses by Diamond Lion. Class 3, we're going to study the Lojong by Yang Gumpa, who is a Kagyu Lama. There are 4 different divisions of Tibetan Buddhism, and the Kagyu is one of those divisions. And he's a very powerful Lama. He's very much respected and admired in our tradition, and which is the Galupa school. So we have a Kagyu school and a Galupa school and a Nyingma school and a Sakya school. Don't get those confused with the philosophical schools. And in our lineage, we share a lot of things in our lineage with the Kagyus. And so he's very much respected, and we study his books on Lojong. And then in class 4 and 5, we're going to study Kadampa Geshe Chikawa. I just call him Geshe Chikawa, but Kadampa Geshe Chikawa, his name is Yeshe Dorje. And his Lojong is the Lojong in 7 points. And it's a very special Lojong that's been studied over the centuries. And it forms a really big part of the Lamrim teachings. A lot of Lamrim teachings are designed from the Lojong in 7 points. And then classes 6 and 7, we're going to study something called Freedom from the 4 Attachments. And this too is a very special Lojong. And it was written by Jetsun Drakpa Gyaltsen. He is not ordained. He was not a monk. He's a layman, and he had layperson vows. And he's from the Sakya lineage. And he's also very important in our Vajrayogini lineage. And then classes, how come I dropped class? Oh, there is no class 8. So we only really have 9 classes. So there is no class 8. When this was taught, that's the way it happened. So then we have 9 and 10, and we have the Crown of Knives, which many of you may already know from the Mixed Nuts, which Seiji Rao translated with Geshe Michael, and that's by Dharma Rakshita. This is also from the Sakya lineage, and it's a really cool Lojong about if things are going right, how you can turn it into a spiritual practice. And if things are going wrong, how you can turn it into a spiritual practice. So it doesn't really matter if things are going right or wrong. It's a way to turn everything into a spiritual practice. And that's by a teacher, as I said, of the Sakya tradition, who was a teacher of someone named the Sakya Pandita. And the Sakya Pandita, he took Buddhism from Tibet to Mongolia, or his nephew did. And then reading 11 are instructions on developing the good heart by Sampa Lotsawa. And he went to India to learn Sanskrit. You know, it's kind of like these days someone going to Sera Monastery to learn Tibetan in India. Right? And he took all this gold with him because in the old days, you had to pay for class. And it was a custom to raise as much gold as you could carry and offer it to that Lama. And sometimes the Lama would just throw it to the wind. It was gold powder. And the point was not that they needed it. The point was that you had to sacrifice something really precious to you for the class to show that you were really serious. Right? You guys have things easy these days. You just join a Zoom class, right? They had to walk all the way to India and find as much gold as they could and feed themselves and make sure it wasn't stolen by thieves and all the things that they could encounter on that road. We have it pretty easy. So it's a commitment from a student. And so Sampa Lotsawa, he had all this gold and he spent it all and he learned everything and he studied for years in India. And he decides, I think it's time to go home. And he goes to Bodh Gaya to pay tribute to the stupa there at Bodh Gaya one more time. And he's sitting there. And these two women start talking. He's listening. And it's just these two women walking around the stupa. And they're talking about death. And they're talking about not having to die. And he's like listening. He's just taking a break, sitting there at the stupa. And suddenly he realizes that these are some kind of special beings that are teaching him something. They're not just two people who just showed up, right? And in that moment, he understands every teaching he ever got in India. And now he's really ready to go home. And so this lojong, the instructions on developing a good heart by Sumpa Lotsawa, is this lojong of the two women. Now that's what we're going to study. It's what he heard. And that's why they don't say it's written by him. They say it's passed down to Sumpa Lotsawa. And that's a really cool thing, right? And then we have advices granted also in that reading to Lord Atisha by two angels. And these are instructions given by Serlingpa. Who was Serlingpa? Serlingpa was a famous Lama in Indonesia. And he had a famous student called Lord Atisha, right? So Lord Atisha was there for many years. And when he was going back to India, and it's not far from India, but it's a dangerous trip on the sea. And we're talking about 1100 or something like that. And Serlingpa says, look, you're going back to India and Tibet. I better give you some instructions on teaching those odd students in foreign countries. Right? He could be talking about us, right? Because they're so difficult to discipline, to train them and to tame their minds. So I better give you some special instructions. And so the last lojong, this is the last lojong that we get to read. Lama Atisha was just hanging around one night, and these two angels appeared to him and told him, you better study lojong. And then you'll hear more about that later. So that's the map of this course. And save the last one for those weird foreign students who are so difficult to tame. I know a few of them. And that will be the cherry on the top. So now we're going to dive into Lojong Sikema. Dorje Senge like in Singapore, right? I mean, Senge is lion, and Dorje, hopefully you know by now, means diamond. He lived 1054 to 1123, and he is the author of the most famous Lojong texts called the 8 Verses. Dorje is, in Sanskrit is Vajra. It's a diamond. It's a twin crystal. And Senge is a corruption of Sanskrit Singa, meaning lion, like I said, in Singapore. And he was one of the Kadampas, who were the first generation of Buddhists in Tibet. Now, who were the Kadampas? They were the first generation of Buddhists in Tibet, and they were crazy, wild yogis, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about them later, but first let me finish telling you about Dorje Senge. He was also called Geshe Langri Tangpa. Say Geshe Langri Tangpa. And Tangri, or Langri Tangpa, Langri is where he's from, the native region, the plains of Langri are where he's from. So he's the Geshe from Langri. He was a Sempa Chempo. Sem meaning mind, Chen meaning great, great mind, which alludes to him being a great bodhisattva. And he was one of the first Geshes. And what does Geshe mean? You might ask. We use it all the time, right? Geshe Michael. It means spiritual friend. In Sanskrit, it's Kalyana Mitra. So Lojong was very popular among these first Buddhists in Tibet, these Kadampas. And they started probably around 1000. So you'll see most of the books we're studying, they come from around that time, around 1000. And these were especially designed as Buddhism moved into this new country, from Indonesia, India, into Tibet. And so the Kadampas, they went to India to learn, and further afield, like Lama Atisha as well. And they met these guys from India. They learned their language, they learned these teachings, and they started these little centers in their country where people would get together and practice this new stuff and learn it. And they would also try to get teachers to come and teach. And slowly, slowly, some of them would go to that other country to learn it. And they would come back and get better and better at it. Then the next step was that they decided to translate all the books into their language, right? We're talking about Tibetan. And first they got all the books they could and made a big collection of them. And then they started translating. They made sure they trained a lot of people in that language. And pretty soon, the little groups became little communities. And they called themselves monasteries. And then it started to spread all over the country. And pretty soon there were like 2 or 3 million monks and nuns, and everybody was practicing. And it was pretty amazing. by the time Buddhism reached its peak in Tibet, they had written 200,000 books about Buddhism, the largest high-quality collection of religious books in the world. And they had converted it completely to their own language and spread it throughout the country. And then, as I said, it was the peak. Slowly, the original books began to disappear. We have very few Sanskrit copies left, right? We have some in Tibet, in Tibetan, in Chinese, but very few Sanskrit are left. So this whole thing, the Lojong and Buddhism itself, was transmitted and brought into a new country, right? So they're kind of like us, or we're kind of like them, because that's the way it has to go. And these are the very famous early Buddhists. And if they hadn't worked so hard, we wouldn't have any Buddhism. Okay, so we're also using a commentary by Chikawa Geshe Dorje, Geshe Chikawa, who lived 1101 to 1175. And all of these are, and this one is especially selected from a compendium of texts on developing the good heart, Lojong Gyatse, which compiled by the great Bodhisattva Muchen Koncho Gyatse. So that's the lineage. The Kadampas and Dorje Senge and Geshe Chikawa and Muchen Koncho Gyatse. So his text, as I keep saying, is called the Lojong Sik Gyema, the Lojong in 8 verses. And it's what we call a dampa. A dampa means religious instruction or advice. It's a special kind of religious book where your Lama comes and takes you into their room and sits you down, and you're quiet together for maybe a half an hour. And then they tell you some holy, sweet things. That's a dampa. That's what dampa means. It's not a public class. It's not in a debate ground. It's not something you're memorizing. Dampa is something whispered from the teacher to the student in a very sweet moment in the teacher's room somewhere. Personal advices, right? The Kadampas were called Kadampas because once you get to a certain spiritual level, no matter where you are, Dampas keep happening to you. Like little sweet nothings that the diamond lion is whispering in our ear. That's the meaning of a dampa. You hear it everywhere. So you hear it, but what are you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to jong it. You're supposed to develop it. You're supposed to make something pure, working on it over and over and over and over until you get it right. So we call it a low jong, right? Word for mind. We can also use the word sem. semjong, right? There's a difference between lo and sem. In English, we only have one word for mind. In Tibetan and Sanskrit, there's maybe 15, and they all have different tastes, different flavors. It's like all the different words for snow in these that the Inuit, have up in Alaska, because they each have a different flavor. I've heard that that's true in Russian as well. So in English, we just say mind or thought or wish. So, but they're calling it here a semjong. So why? It's a jongchub semjong. Jongchub. Remember what jongchub is? We talked about it at the beginning of class. Anybody remember? It refers to a Buddha. So Jong is develop, mind, Sem, Jongchu Buddha. Develop the mind of a Buddha. Developing a feeling about other people where you love each other. The ultimate compassion. The goal of Buddhism. It's an extraordinary form of that feeling that you got, that Geshe talks about on that airplane that's going down. It's Jongchub Kisem, Bodhicitta. It's a code word for bodhicitta. So that's Jongchub Sem Jong. So ultimately, who cares who gets the promotion? Who cares who gets more money? Who cares if it's hot in the room or cold in the room? We're all on that conveyor belt going over that final cliff. We're all getting older and dying, moment by moment by moment, even as we sit here studying Lojong. And that's what Chankya Rinpoche is saying. It's 1 page long, the Lojong Sikyama, in 8 verses. Sik means verse, Gye means 8, and Ma, anybody know about Ma? Why do we have Ma on the end of Sikyama? Thank you, Roxana. The feminine particle. Yes. And why do we have it? It's a tradition in Buddhism that books are named after women because a woman is considered the perfect embodiment of wisdom and knowledge and of power, even in the Heart Sutra. The real name of the Heart Sutra is Bhagavati or Chomdendema, which means the woman Buddha, the woman conqueror. Because the Lojong Sikyama addresses this wisdom of how to develop the mind, the heart, the love of an enlightened being. So this is a very early book, maybe 20 years ago or more, The Essence of the Mahayana Lojong Practice, published by Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael's teacher. And this is where I got the picture of Diamond Lion was from this book. And this is the mind training in 8 verses. And it was carved onto one of those petches, right? So I just wanted to share that with you. So let's get into the text. And we'll probably have a fairly short class today, so you can rejoice. They're short, the verses. There's only 8 of them. You might want to memorize them. So let me see who is, oops, that's the second verse, which is not what we want. Who is here? Hanfen, can you read the Tibetan and the English? Are you able to do that? Maybe not, huh? There you are. Can you unmic yourself? Can you read it? Okay, someone else, I guess. Hong, can you read it, the English?
Yes,
Thank you.
I read the Tibetan, right? Or English
Read the
only?
Tibetan and then the English. Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. จากนี้แซมเชนทัมเชลายีชินนอพูเลลักเพดุนชอบตูเพเซมบาชีทักตูชิพาจินพาชอบ
Beautiful.
May I think of every living being as more precious than a vision-giving dream for reaching the ultimate goal, and so always hold them dear.
Thank you. Dakni Semchen Tamshe La Yeshin Norbu Le Lak Pe. Dakni means me. Senshin Tamshe La means all sentient beings are Yeshin Norbu. The people around you are more precious than a wishing jewel. Yishin Norbu. A Yishin Norbu is a jewel that gives you anything you wish for. In Sanskrit, it's called Chittamani. So it's like whatever you can think of, you can have. So there's this story in Tibet. There's this special jewel, and there's a commentary on this by Geshe Chikawa, who was, as we've said, a very famous Kadampa. And he went looking for Dorje Senge. He heard about this lojong, and he wanted to learn it from Dorje Senge himself. And he went walking around Tibet looking for Diamond Lion. And he wasn't able to find him because just a couple of years before he had passed away, and he was too late. So he missed him. He only learned it from one of Geshe Chikawa's, or from one of Diamond Lion's students. And then he went ahead to write a beautiful commentary on it. So there's this thing in Tibet called Yishin Norbu. Sometimes the Dalai Lama is called Yishin Norbu. Tibetans, they will not call the Dalai Lama Dalai Lama. They call him Gyalwe Rinpoche, which is like the Gyelse, meaning like an ocean of goodness, or Yishin Norbu, which means wishing giving gem. So the idea, if you know the story, the Persian story of Aladdin's lamp, where you rub it and out comes a magical person, we call it a genie, and they say, you have 3 wishes. And you can wish for anything you want. So in Buddhist scriptures, there's a special jewel that is found like in the mud. And you have to go into the mud or the muck to get to it. And then you find this rough jewel. It's not polished yet. And you find this jewel, you have to put it on a very high special pole. You put the jewel up there, you wrap it in special silks, you wash it with all these special mantras and herbal mixtures before that, and then you put it up there and you do prayers. So you do all these rituals, and if you've done everything well and it comes out right, then you can wish for anything you want and you'll get it. And that's called Yishin Norbu. So the text is saying that other people are better than a wishing jewel, than a chittamani. Other people are better than Yishin Norbu. So there's 3 ways you can translate it. 1, you can't conceive of how nice it will be when you get to your tantric enlightenment, even if someone were to explain it to you. You would not be able to think of it at all. Maybe a little piece of it, but it's so much bigger. And that's why Tantra is secret. It's a self-protecting secret. We're talking the diamond way, right? And we wouldn't know what to wish for. So in that sense, anything that would bring you to touch the diamond world, to reach diamond way enlightenment, would be better than a wish-giving gem. And the only thing that will bring you to that is your relationship with the people around you all the time. Le lakpe means more precious than a wish-giving jewel. So they are very, very precious. And then the second 2 lines, Dunchok dupe senpai yi tak tu chipar zimpar shok. They're going to get you to heaven, to your ultimate goal. And your relationship to them is like, I love you. Thank you. Test me. Make me learn to be kind. Do whatever it is. So to attain like this ultimate enlightenment, an angel's body, you can't do it alone. You need other people. You need to be around difficult people because they challenge you. They are going to help you to purify what you need to purify. So we're talking about the people that we see every day at work, the people we see at home, the conflicts we have. They're all a setup to get us to reach our ultimate goal. And that's why they are more precious than a wish-giving jewel. So that's the first point. It's already pretty rich, right? The second one is that the state of mind, bodhicitta, or ultimate compassion, that wants to reach the highest goals, is more precious than a wish-giving gem. And then 3, Buddhahood itself is better than a wish-giving gem. So we are generally incapable even of, imagining what the ultimate goal, what becoming enlightened being is really like. So if we possessed a gem that gave us anything we wished for, we would not even be able to think or frame or put together the wish properly. Right? So that's why I'm saying that every living being is more precious than a wish-giving gem. The grammar of the Tibetan phrase Semchen Tamshe La, see if right here in the top, Semchen Tamshe La, Yishin Noru Lehape, Duncho, it should Jupe Sem, where's my Senpai Yi. It can also be read, reach the ultimate goal, more precious than a wish-giving gem, for the sake of every living being. So the point is that the state of enlightenment provides everything we ever wished for. It's our ticket to tantric paradise, and it's none other than the people around us all day long. It's not some special bell. It's not like an amazing crown. It's like door day and all these weird rituals and stuff like that. You want to know what's going to get you to enlightenment. I got news for you. It's the people right around you every day. And that's what the first 2 lines say. They are for you, your ticket to deathlessness in this lifetime. The people right around you at any given moment of the day. And you have to figure out why. You want to get to a state of deathless bliss in this lifetime. If you want that, you're going to have to do it with the people right around you by doing the right thing with them, and they will get you there. Do they become valuable for you or not? Is it metaphorical? Is it figurative or literal? It's literal, right? The only way that we'll ever change into this incredible, beautiful body of light with an extraordinary mind forever is with the people around us. We need them. We need them to do that. We'll never do it without them. And then thinking about that, I invite you to appreciate, especially those difficult ones around you. They are the people who are going to get you enlightened. And you have to look at them that way, as extremely precious. I love you. Thank you. Abuse me some more. Test me, burn me, check me, push me. Make me be kind. Make me learn to be kind. This is the greatest thing they can teach you. This is what they're going to give you, and you can't get it anywhere else. It means that if you're a good Buddhist, you better figure out that your Buddhism is going to take place with your family, where you work, the people you meet on the street, right? You're not going to meet all sentient beings. You have these very precious representatives of all sentient beings. So you can read this grammar to say that the state of mind that wants to reach the highest goal is the most precious, is more precious than a wish-giving gem. That's only verse 1. And it's full of incredible advices. Come on. Verse 2. Somebody want to volunteer to read? Hello? Nobody?
May I?
Yes, please. Who are you? Where are you?
I'm Hạnh. You can call me Hannah.
Somebody please highlight her.
Giang du Sudang Goposhe Dagni Kule Manta Singh Shanla Shamba Tabaji Choktu Chupa Jimbaso.
Nice. How about the English now?
When I am with another, wherever we are, may I see myself as the lowest. May I hold the other as highest from the bottom of my heart. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you. And beautiful way of reciting the verse like a song. Gangdu Sudam Gopoitse, Dakne Kunle Manta Shing, Shanla Sampa Takpai, Choktu Chupar Tsempar Shok. So she did it beautifully as a song like that. So when I'm with another, may I see myself as the lowest, and may I hold other as highest from the bottom of my heart. Does that feel comfortable to you? To hold myself as the lowest? I think especially, well, because I'm a woman, I don't know about the guys, but I think we have been doing this for centuries, not only out of choice, but because that's the way the culture works, is that women have a second-class role. But we're not talking about that. So listen carefully. We're not talking about low self-esteem. We're not talking about being incapable or bad, I'm bad somehow. That is not the point. So don't think that. Anyone could be an enlightened being. So this is about reverse paranoia. Rather than thinking people are out to get us and take advantage of us, could we think that everyone is out there to help us? According to the scriptures, there should be at least a few enlightened beings on this Zoom call with us, right? Or in your office, or in your family, disguised as normal people. And we don't know which ones they are. There are millions and millions of beings who have already become enlightened. And they can plan events millions of years ahead of time. They could plan to be here. They could have been planning it 3 or 4 million years ago because they can see all times and see what you need, right? And they'd have no problem at all. It's no big deal for them. The person who's sitting next to you on the bus could have been sitting there for 10 years, just waiting for you to get on and sit next to them. Do you really know who the people are around you? All around you, there are spies from the enlightened realm, and they are working hard to get you there. Special beings to help us. If they are empty, if our goodness is enough, they could be this for us. So try to listen. Try to be sensitive to somebody saying something to you. Be curious. Why are they saying that? Why are they doing that to me? Even the people who are bad to you, especially, in fact, the people who are bad to you, what are they trying to get out of me? What do they want? What do they want me to see? Are they bad from their own side? So again, I want to say very strongly, this is not talking about low self-esteem. This is talking about recognizing or entertaining the divine around you and how it can speak to you. And how those beings, those people around you, maybe they're not normal. And maybe they're irritating you so you can learn something about your own mind and your own misunderstanding. Because if we didn't have that, we would just keep carrying on the way we've been carrying on and planting negative seeds and not getting any closer to our final goal, right? So verse 3, I need another volunteer. Oh, excuse me. Another volunteer? Wake up.
May I? Can you hear me?
A little bit louder, maybe?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry, my technical issue. Yeah, and I read. Thank you, teacher. Chưa làm kun từ rang dìu lá, tốc trình nhong mong kia mạt tác, tác sen ma rung chế bồn nạ, sen tạp đơn mê lốc bà sổ. As I
Beautiful.
go through the day, may I watch my mind to see if a negative thought has come. If it does, may I stop it right there with thoughts. The last slide. I
Since
didn't see on my phone. Sorry.
since it hurts myself and others.
Yeah. Since it hurts myself and others. Thank you, teacher.
Beautiful. Thank you. So this lojong, it says, listen. Once in a while, you're going to get upset. You're going to have a bad thought in your mind. We have 65 discrete thoughts per finger snap. There's all sorts of garbage in there. And once in a while, you're going to get angry at other people or irritated at them. And at what point should you do something? Should you wait? Should you just ignore it? The text says right away. If it does, that negative thought comes. If it does, may I stop it right there with force. So the minute you start to feel bad towards someone, stop it before it gets bigger. Stop it, face it, and admit that it's your problem, right? They're dying just like you. They want help just like you. They are sad just like you. They've had death in their family. They've had surgery. Their body hurts just like yours. Give them a break. Everyone has something going on, just like each of us, right? Stop it right there. Cut it. Master Shanti Davis says the same thing. He says, be like a bump on a log, right? Why? In Buddhism, one moment of a negative thought towards another person, even a slight irritation on the street at someone who bumps you, is tremendous bad karma. And what happens with karma? It grows exponentially every 24 hours. What starts out as a little tiny seed grows. So one moment of slight irritation at someone has profound effects on your future life. Meaning, 10 years from now, your life won't be as happy. Small things will be going wrong. Why? Buddhism says because you got slightly irritated at a person on the street 10 years ago. A karmic seed starts out very small. And if we don't stop it, and if we don't purify it, then it just continues to grow. And it grows into these horrible situations, like a war. A small little seed. So even a few instances of negative mental karma, negative mental seeds, are enough to produce the perception of an entire lower realm life. And we must avoid even these few instances. As I go through the day, may I watch my mind to see if a negative thought has come. If it does, may I stop it right there with force, since it hurts myself and others. So how do you do that? You're sitting there talking with somebody, or you're working and somebody comes in and interrupts you. And so quickly we get irritated. How can we slow down enough to watch our mind and to nip it in the bud, as they say? Idiom, English idiom, nip it in the bud, just stop it in the moment, right? Change what you're doing. Go to the bathroom. Drop a pen on the floor. Do something to shift what your mind is following, because it's only grasping one thought out of thousands of thoughts. Why is it just choosing that one negative thought? Habit. And the more we do it, the more we solidify that habit. That seed grows. So to protect ourselves and others, we need to stop these negative habits that we have. You can do a 4 powers, Janet says, save for 4 powers. Do the 4 powers right then. Don't save it. Do a quick 4 powers. You could see that there's this fire in your heart, and just feed the fire and burn it up. Don't wait. What happens if you wait? It grows and grows and grows, right? And then it's even harder to purify. Yes, of course, do the 4 powers. If you know the Vajrasattva practice, yes, do Vajrasattva. To work on all of those old seeds we have planted. And you'll know what they are, because they show up in your life as obstacles. But don't wait. It's like, no, I'm not going to let my negative thought, overcome me. Fight it as hard as you possibly can. Be a bump on the log. Shut your mouth. Go somewhere else. Look in the mirror. It's me doing this. I'm hearing it this way. I am reacting this way. It's not them, right? Do your 4 powers. Take refuge in, not the scissors, the pen. Oh, now I have to refocus. All right. Sorry about that. Let me stop my video, refocus. There we go. Every time I move, the camera goes wonky. What is the 4 powers? Take refuge in your understanding of the pen, right? Maybe even you may have not even said anything. You've just watched your mind start criticizing someone. It happens to me all the time. I start criticizing someone and I start fighting with my critical self. No, they're not doing that. It's you seeing it this way. Stop it, and I get into this whole tussle with that critical mind of that person's not doing it the way I think it should be done. Stop it. Fight it. You're not necessarily going to win the fight, but that's not what's important. What's important is that you are working on it. That's what's important. And that you keep working on it. And at some point, you will win the fight. Lama Tsongkhapa said the most virtuous fight you can ever have is with your mental afflictions. It's the only virtuous fight. Okay? So don't let them bulldoze you. At least put up a fight before they bulldoze you. But don't be a wimp. Okay. Verse 4, one more volunteer. This is the last verse we're going to cover today. Kimchi.
Yeah, hello teacher and
Thank
hello
you.
everyone. Yes. Rang sìn nhín po sen chèn nì đít đức thúc rang pù nhun tông chè rin chen tơ thang pe pa sìn nhê pa ca quê chu sìn sọc.
Nice.
Yes. At times I will meet bad people, tormented by strong bad deeds and pain. They are hard to fight like a mine of gold, and so I hold them dear.
Can you
Yeah.
turn your camera on too, please? Thank you so much. So we can see you.
Yes. Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, yes. Thank you so much.
So bad people are hard to find. So get the most out of them, right? Are they hard to find? Well, according to Master Shantideva, once you learn this secret of Buddhism, if you stop reacting negatively to other people, bad people will get less and less in your life. You know, Master Shantideva says, go and kiss them goodbye. So, you know, maybe you don't get along with somebody in your office. Stop reacting negatively to them. And either you'll get transferred or they'll get transferred or something will happen, right? The seats will shift. So stop reacting to them in a bad way. And then you stop the karma of meeting them again. Right? What's happening in the moment is what we call dry cement. You can't change it. You can plant the seeds for the future. And you must plant the seeds for the future. So the best way to get rid of people you don't get along with is to realize that you made them that way. It's your seeds. They are a mirror of your seeds. Now, wouldn't you like to be kind to yourself? They are your mirror, right? So, again, at times I will meet bad people, tormented by strong bad deeds and pain. They are hard to find like a mine of gold, and so may I hold them dear. So those are the first 4 verses of the 8 of Lojong Sik Gyema. And on Thursday, we will cover the second 4. So your meditation for until Thursday is to do 15 minutes per day analytical meditation on one of these first 4 of the 8 verses. And during that, think about the actual events in your own life right now that give you a chance to practice the teachings of the verse. So think about how you can apply it in your daily life, how you can apply it at home, at work, and in any of your interactions with people. And maybe there's one verse that stands out to you that you would like to memorize, so you have it in your head, right? As a reminder of how you want to be the world, right? How you want to react with other people, how you want to do this drastic change to become an enlightened being. So before we end this class, because it's been so powerful, or at least it has been for me, I hope it has been for you as well. Let's dedicate even thinking about and wishing to change our habitual way of being with others, how to become a kinder person. And let's send that energy of kindness, of love, out into this troubled world that we have right now. And let it touch those who are really deeply suffering. See it as light coming from your heart to the people closest to you who are suffering. And then to people further away, maybe in other countries who are experiencing hunger and homelessness and wars, and let them feel your love and care. And make a decision that today you will do at least one kindness for somebody else before you go to sleep tonight. And it's more powerful if you do it with someone who you have difficulty with. Think of something you could do or say to put a little more kindness into our world. Okay, thank you. And see you on Thursday.